Chapter 2 The Golden Deer. Bodhisattva was born as a golden deer in one of his incarnations before taking birth as a human being. As a deer, he was very beautiful. His eyes shone like diamonds. He had silver-colored horns and the soles of his feet were bright red. He lived with 500 other deer in the forest near Varanasi. His name was Mrigaraj Nigroda. Nigroda means the king of deer. King Brahmadutt was the ruler of Varanasi at that time. He was fond of eating the delicious and soft flesh of deer. He would often ask the villagers near the forest to stop their work and accompany him on his hunting expeditions. This made the king's subjects rather unhappy as they could not find time to attend to their day-to-day work. They were made to join the king's hunting party every day. One day, the villagers rounded up all the deer in the forest and put them in an enclosure near the kingdom. Then they approached the king and told him, "O king, from now onwards, there will be no need for you to go to the jungle in pursuit of deer, as your majesty can now choose any deer for dinner from those trapped in the enclosure." The king, happy with the arrangement, went to the enclosure with his courtiers. He was delighted to see the deer, but his eyes fell on a beautiful golden deer among them. He ordered his men not to kill the golden deer for his meal. Since that day, without fail, one deer was taken from the enclosure to be killed. On seeing the royal cook arrive, the frightened deer would run helter-skelter and get injured or die. One day, all the deer collected together and decided to approach Mrigaraj Nigroda for a solution to their problem. The Mrigaraj suggested, "Why shouldn't one of us voluntarily offer ourselves for the king's meal? This would prevent us from getting hurt in the rush to save ourselves from the royal cook's knife." When the king was told about this suggestion, he readily agreed to this arrangement. It was decided that daily a deer would sacrifice himself to keep the king's kitchen running. One day, it was the turn of a pregnant female deer to face the eggs. She approached Mrigaraj with tears in her eyes. She pleaded that though it was her turn to be killed, she first wanted to give birth to her cub and play with the newborn for a while. She added, "After some time has passed, both of us would offer ourselves one by one to be killed for the king's meal." Mrigaraj considered her requests. He told her that in such a case, he himself would have to take her place and be sacrificed. Overjoyed, the female deer went back to her spot in the enclosure to await the birth of her young one with great excitement. When a royal courtier saw the majestic golden deer waiting for his turn to be killed, he was shocked. He rushed to the king to convey that the golden deer himself had offered to be killed that day. Shocked and surprised, the king rode in his chariot to meet the golden deer. He asked the golden deer, "Why do you offer yourself when I have granted pardon to you?" Mrigaraj replied that he was doing so to save the life of a pregnant deer and the cub in her womb. The king was surprised and was so moved at the spirit of sacrifice in the golden deer that he granted clemency to the pregnant deer. At this, Nigroda exclaimed, "O king, thank you for your kindness in sparing the two of us. But what will happen to the others in the herd?" The king replied, I promise to spare them also. Nigroda said, "It is all very well to spare the deer in this enclosure, but what about those in the forest?" The king promised to spare them too. Nigroda added, "O king, I am very happy that you have decided to spare all the four-legged animals, but what about the birds that fly?" The king pledged to spare the birds also. But Nigroda continued, "And oh Lord, what about the creatures living in water?" The king replied, "O golden deer, they too will be spared." The king freed the deer in the enclosure. He imposed a ban on killing of animals in his kingdom, as he felt that all living beings had the right to live and not be killed.